welcome to GrowMe. Today I am honored to bring back Dr. Marjolein Schuit, and today we are going to be talking about a sensitive and urgent topic that I know that's on a lot of hearts and minds right now. Currently there are fires tearing through the world and floods destroying properties, and today Marjolein is going to bring us a very amazing teachings, three things that you can do right now in order to protect your homes and your property from these environmental disasters being caused by climate change. So make sure to stay tuned till the end, where she gives some really great resources to help you if you are scared, have anxiety, or want to take action to protect your property. Tune in, stay till the end, and take it away, the plant doctor.
So I have clients around the world, as you might know. I have a lot of friends around the world, and I see the fear in posts and what my friends are sharing around wildfires. So the wildfires already started, of course, in January, February in Australia, and it rapidly speeded up until now. I see a lot of friends in the US who are scared to death about fires. And a couple of days ago, one of my friends, she reached out to me and said that she lost a few trees from snow. So that's not wildfires, but she lost a lot of trees. And she said, "Can I grieve about these trees?" And I love that she reached out to me. She said, "I had to think of you when I was working on the trees to get them off my property." And she just reached out and asked me if grieving was the right thing to do for trees. And because I see a lot of climate anxiety around me, I just wanted to reach out to you and do a video as permaculture expert to show you just a little bit of basics around building fire breaks with trees and other plants and shrubs. So I have to point out that I'm not a fire break expert. I live in Europe, where luckily we don't have these problems yet. And I'm pointing out yet because it can change quite rapidly. I don't know for sure. My colleague knows more about it. Natasha knows a little bit more about these extreme climates and the changes on them. But in Europe, we have similar problems coming up. So extreme winds, there might be flooding coming up. I live in a region that used to be underwater. So we live in a flooding prone area. And the things that I'm teaching you for my friends in Europe, they might be a signal for you to start doing something to protect yourself from flooding and drought. And I shared a post yesterday on drought of cause of everything. And if we fix our soils, and this sounds like cutting corners, and it sounds like I'm making things easy, but it actually is quite easy. And it's not to be disrespectful of these traumatic experiences maybe, but it's just to show you that you might fall into traps of government pointing out, or other organizations, or people who find that their ego is more important than sharing that something is actually quite simple. You might fall into these traps of people pointing out, "No, it's too complicated. We cannot change this. It's not reversible climate change or climate crisis. We have to call it what it is. It's a crisis." But actually, it is quite simple. It is, yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, we have to radically change what we're doing. But the solutions are quite simple. And again, this is not to be disrespectful of those who are experiencing trauma right now. And I'm not a psychologist or a trauma expert, and I would never ever claim to be that. So if I'm stepping on some toes, I'm so sorry in advance. But this is just a video to help you a little bit and show you what you can do right now and what actions to take to already start reversing climate change. This is a video to help my friends, because I really feel that so many people are overwhelmed with what's happening in the world. And it is Black Lives Matter. It is maybe coronavirus for you. It is wildfires. It is drought and flooding. And it is me with the tools that I've been taught that I can help you moving out of this by taking up on action. So the first thing that I want to show you is that plants can actually slow down fires, which I think, and if I get excited in this video, it's because it's about plants, and it's not to be cutting corners in traumatic experiences. Don't get me wrong on this, but I actually really like reading up on these things because it makes me feel that there are so many solutions out there that are not commonly shared. And that's what makes me excited, not that there's like crisis going on, just to point that out. So plants can slow down fires. When I learned this from my mentor, Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton, I was like, wait, what? There are plants that slow these things down, like wildfires and fire outbreaks and everything that has to do with fires. And the things that I'm going to teach you or show you today it might feel weird that I'm saying these things to you, but bear with me. So fire outbreaks. What is a wildfire? Well, a wildfire is something that happens spontaneously, and it's not like a planned fire, or it's not within season, or it's more extreme than what a season commonly shows us. And we are seeing a lot of extremes in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. Change always starts slowly off and then it rapidly increases. And we're seeing a lot of extremes right now. Also in Europe, if you are in Europe and you feel that climate crisis is not for you, it's not happening here, it definitely is. So it's not to scare you off. I don't like scaring tactics, but it's just to make you aware that these things that I'm talking about, it's not we call it in the Netherlands, we call it a far from our bed show or thing. I don't have a translation for that. But you can protect your properties from fire outbreaks and wildfires and actually slow fires down so it doesn't come to your house. And I have to break it up a little bit, and I don't want to make the video very long, but I really want to make sure that you have some actionable steps to implement on your sites, because that's my goal today, that you can do something right now instead of being stuck in panic mode maybe. So plants are a solution. The cool thing is, if we start with observation, and this feels like counterproductive, maybe because you might feel terrified and shocked and frozen. And it might feel that you're running out of time and that observation will be the last thing you feel like right now. You just feel like running. That's also okay. If you feel like running, just run. But if the fires are further away from you, and you know that they won't reach you this year, you have time to observe the surroundings that you're in. And observation feels slow to us people, but observation is key in teaching you all these things about your site. And a site, I mean your estate or your huge garden, or maybe you live in a forest or you live up on a hill. Anywhere where you live, that's your site. That's what I mean by that. If you observe, for example, my favorite animal in the world, no, I hate this animal with a passion, but they are super smart. If you observe snails, snails always come out of plants which are slimy and lubricant and watery. Snails come out of these plants and crawl to plants like cabbages, for example. They love cabbages. It's the first thing that they will attack in gardens or gardens or estates. Cabbage kinds, brassicas. So if you look at snails in your surrounding and you have snails right now, I would invite you first to see where they're coming from. And you might get really impatient with me when I say these things, and you have to slow down and observe and take time to watch snails. And you think, Marjolein, are you fucking crazy? I live in a place that might catch fire next year in wildfires. You don't think I have time to watch snails right now, right? But you have to bear with me. Snails tell you something really important. Snails would never crawl. They would never live or sleep. I don't know what snails do. Hibernate, go dormant in plants that are prone to fires. They always house upon these lubricant environments. Maybe it's better for their skin. I don't know. I really don't want to think about snails right now, but it's important for the lesson. So snails tell you which plants to plant on the perimeter of your site. And this is important. This is really important, you guys. The perimeter of your site, if you plant on the outer scopes of your yard or your estate, that's the place where you want to plant fire-resistant plants. And snails, if you take the time for it, it's also highly stress-reducing, so I think that's a good exercise in and on itself. But the snails will tell you what to plant on the perimeter of your estate. And you would say, okay, great. I'm going to watch the snails and I'm going to plant it. But how? How I'm going to do this? So in the first half of this talk, I told you that plants are a solution to fire resistant or fire outbreaks. And now I'm going to teach you how to do this. So you did observation. Let's say you observed your snails for maybe a couple of weeks or a month, or I prefer a year, but sometimes you don't have a year. So at least take a month to see where snails are coming from and where they're going back to. That's lesson number 1, because those plants are fire resistant and they slow down fires. The second stage to this lesson, I don't want to call it a lesson, but a tool. I'm going to give you a toolkit. The second thing I'm going to show you is this. Have you ever, as a kid, started a fire? And I know this might be a sensitive topic for some. I don't want to trip you up on purpose. Sorry about that, but it's just to show you something. Have you ever started a fire with a big log? Like a huge piece of wood? What will happen? Fire goes out. Nothing happens. We know, and I've been taught by Bill Mollison and Jeff Lawton, that big logs, hardwood, won't catch fire. It won't. It's not going to happen. Hardwood trees, they are big motherfuckers. You cannot set them on fire. And I have to point out that for each region you live in, or up or below the hemisphere, things are different. And I wrote down a short tree list for you, depending on the region, what you can do, because I want to make it quick and short for you so that you can start taking action like this week. Big motherfucker trees never can be caught on fire, set on fire. Those are hardwooded species. And again, I'm gonna put a list in the comments to show you what kind of trees they are. And I put in the Latin names. And this is not to be fancy or my ego has a place, but everywhere in the world, trees are called different in common language. So that's why I put the Latin names in there. What I would like to suggest is I'm going to make a drawing for you. And this is just a sketch, so bear with me. For example, this is your house. This is like the middle of your site. And the thing that you have to do in your observations is see where the wind is coming from, generally, like the prevailing wind. Sorry about that. Sometimes I don't know the correct term. So this is your house, and scout, point out or observe where the wind is coming from. The prevailing wind. So in the Netherlands, it's southwest. So usually we would plant a fire break or a flooding break or a wind break in the southwest. That's like your dominant prevailing wind. This is your house. So let's say your wind is coming, I think with wildfires, it's from the south. So let's say that this is north, and then this is the south. So for example, if your prevailing wind and the fire outbreaks during daytime are in the south, you want to place your fire break in the southern region of your estate. So that's here. I'm going to plant some trees. Again, this is sketching. It's just to point out something. So this is the perimeter of your site, right? So there's nothing there that's for you. It's for other people or something else. Always make sure that whatever trees you're planting in your fire break, or your safety belt is also called that way, always make sure that you know how big the biggest tree is going to get when it's an adult tree. You can look these things up. That's why Google is sometimes comes in handy. So for example, if the biggest tree that you want to plant in your fire break, hardwoody species, becomes 20 meters, so 65 foot, that's the biggest tree. Always make sure that it's then 65 foot from your house. That's where your fire break starts. So in Europe, it will be 20 meters, but this will be 65 foot. I'm gonna write that down. And again, you can sketch this for yourself. I don't wanna point out that, everybody can do this. Everybody can think about these things. 65 feet from your house. That's where your fire break will start. Why? Why is that? If you have these crazy fires and they will reach you because you're slowing down the fire, but if a tree falls, maybe it's old or maybe you didn't maintain it well, all these things, what if a tree falls down? You never want it to fall down on your house. So that's why you want to plant a fire break 65 feet or 20 meters from your house, like this. That's how you start off. And I think this in on itself is your tool belt. Observation of snails. Where's the wind, the dominant prevailing wind coming from? And how far should I plant a fire break with hardwood species from my house? My preference, and this is the difference between garden design, like designing a beautiful garden, or permaculture. This is a difference in that. My preference, if it's just for saving your house, which I think is number one anyway, it should be very efficient. And we know that planting in a circle is very efficient. A species grow the best if they're planted in a circle or on a rim anyway. And fire will go around, if it's like fire with wind, fire will grow around this wind break, the fire break, sorry. It just goes around it and not on your house. If you feel that you need more aesthetics, maybe this is not the time to think about aesthetics, right? You just want to save your house. And you want to be safe yourself. Like a house is replaceable, but you as a human being, it's quite hard. Okay, so that's the fire break. How will it look like? My preference in planting anything is always work from high to low. I'm gonna draw that for you. High tree, lower tree or shrub, some herbaceous species, or maybe some other shrubs and some herbs. Maybe 4 or 5 rows of plants. Doesn't really matter in this case. That's your highest tree. So what if this is 20 meters or 65 feet? That's the highest. So that's your highest species. And it doesn't get complicated here, but it's more like experience-wise. So if you want to know something about this, just DM me and I'll help you out. This is just for my friends so that they're safe. Then it's a lower species of your fire break. So that's a plant that slows fire down, hardwood species. And then a shrub, maybe, that's fire resistant or slows down fires. And maybe one or two herbaceous plants. And this is all planted for the sake of this exercise. It's all planted like this. Again, this is just a sketch. It's not on size or anything. So bear with me. If any professionals are looking and you think, Marjolein, what are you talking about? This is wrong. No, it's not wrong. So it's planted. There's the big trees. Around it is a layer of smaller trees, and then another round of smaller trees, and then some shrubs and herbaceous species. I hope this helps for you. That's how you plant it. So it's planted the outer rim, and then the second rim will be planted in between these plants as another row. You can also interplant them, no problem. No worries there, doesn't matter. But I prefer a row of maybe 4 or 5 species stacked upon each other as a fire break. So what it does, of course, it will give you more time. It will slow fires down for you. It's not so extreme. It won't put out fires. I have to point that out as well. But it really slows down fires. So you can play with time if you plant plants that are not prone to fires. Let's see what else is on my list. I'm going to point out a few species, and I'm also going to put in the list because my Latin pronunciation was never great, won't ever be great, but that's okay. I'm going to point out the common names for you. So mark this time and look up again where I'm mentioning the species for your region or where you are in the world. And I looked at fire-prone regions or fire-prone countries. So it's more general, but it will help for you. Oh, wait, no, I have to point something out. Sorry, I forgot soil. It wasn't on my list. So all these things are great, but you have to also work on soil improvements, because drought is always caused by soils that are not, that water is not leaking in, but running off, so erosion. Erosion soils are what causing all these extreme effects in the world. I made a whole course on soil improvement. I taught this course in Canada. I will also link it again in this video so you can watch it. It's maybe, I think it's 2 hours. And this is just for you to build up on your soils. And if you still feel, Marjolein, I don't get it, or what should I do? Also bear in mind that for each place in the world, it can be a little bit different, but this is just for you to start off. So if you have soils that can take up on water way more easily, of course, you won't experience these extremes of droughts. I know of permaculture sites that the rest is burning off, but on their sides, fires are slowing down. The Big Little Farm is one example of that. Their fire was slowed down, and because their soils can keep water so well, it will be on their site. You won't experience fires on your sites. Of course, it takes a little bit of time. So if you plant now, maybe your fire break will be done maybe by the beginning of next year. And then everything that you do right now will already be an improvement. So that's also important to point out. So I'm going to link the soil improvement class in here somewhere so that you can find it again and watch it. because I always feel that if we take care of, I don't feel it, I know, as a science, like from science, it's science, so it's true. No, it's not what I want to point out, but you know what I mean. So if you improve your soils, we won't have these problems of erosion, of runoff, of fires, of droughts, and everything that causes that, of land that's not usable anymore. We won't have as many wars on lands, because people are migrating from one place to the other because their land is not fertile anymore. I'm cutting corners here, but you know what I mean. So if we improve our soil, we will reverse climate change. I can state that, and it's that simple. Reverse it. Fix our soils, we're good to go. So that's why I find it really important to use plants instead of anything mechanical to reverse climate change and reverse these fires, because plants are a solution to our soils. That's really short, but now I want to point out what species to use, and I wrote it down. So in the Western United States and Canada, it will be Pinus ponderosa, ponderose pine, you call it. So it's a pine tree, and plant these only in the western parts of the US and Canada. These will also be very good for Swedish countries or Scandinavia, those kind of countries, like all the way up north. In the Netherlands, we have a lot of pine varieties. They don't do well, so they cause drought, and they might cause fires as well in forests. Not cause, but they will burn easily because they're dry. They dry out in our climates. So these are only for Western United States and Canada. Pinus ponderosa, Pinus ponderosa. In the southeastern part of the United States, that will be from North Carolina to central Florida. And these are very regions that are prone to fires, in Texas, Oklahoma. The southern magnolia grandiflora. Oh, I'm really butchering that. Magnolia grandiflora. That will be a tree you want to plant on your outer perimeter. They're also edible, which is great. And in the eastern part of North America, there you can plant the mountain ash, the American mountain ash, as a perimeter firebreak, the Sorbus americana. That will be someone you want to look out for. So these, I'm going to read it out. Eastern North America. Okay, good. So Great Lake region. California, and in California you need an evergreen oak as well. It would be nice, the coast live oak. And this is Quercus agrifolia. I have to work on my Latin. Doesn't matter. Quercus agrifolia. You need that one. And in South Africa, we of course know the status symbols of these countries. That's the baobab tree and the sonia. These are like, they will slow down fires as a fire brigade. Like if you plant baobabs, there also are baobab species that are from African, Australian countries, Australian places. So look at baobab trees as well. If it's native to your area, you should plant these. And then in Western Australia, there is a eucalyptus species, but bear in mind that not all eucalyptus will slow fires down. Sometimes it's the opposite. So it's the Eucalyptus occidentalis, so it's from the west, that will slow down fires, Eucalyptus occidentalis. Okay, I really hope this helped for you, for my friends around the world, what you can do regarding to plants. I'm going to summarize it a little bit for you, what we discussed. So I discussed that you can make a fire break from plant material, planting trees and shrubs, and I taught you, one of the tools that I have in my tool belt that I taught you is observation. And in this particular case, it's observing snails. Where are they coming from? Where are they going to when they are done eating your cabbages? Mark those plants down and plant them in the outer perimeter. I also showed you that you should always plant a fire break on the prevailing wind area. So in the Netherlands, it would be southwest, but I also read upon that wildfires might be coming from the south. So mark those things down on like a map or a sketch and look up in your region where the prevailing wind is coming from, or observe it, either or both. And also look up if there are wildfires, where is the wind coming from when there's a wildfire. It's very important. I also showed you that you can plant something on your perimeter, and my preference would be not to choose for aesthetics, but to plant it in a circle so fire goes around it, goes around the trees and will be slowed down, because that is the purpose, slowing down fires. I also showed you that plants, you should always look up, if you want to plant a fire break, what the highest tree will be. And that's the distance that you will plant your fire break from your house. And because you don't want a tree to fall on your house. I also want to point out, if you have like a smaller estate or a smaller house or yard, just pick smaller trees. When they're grown, just pick smaller ones. I also said that soil improvement is really important, and I'm gonna put down a link somewhere so you can watch that whole course. It is a really nice course I taught. And I also marked down a few trees that are fit to your region. And I always prefer that you pick native species. You know why. And that's it. Thank you so much. And if you have anything else to share, feel free to do so. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much to Marjolein for this incredibly informative talk on what to do about fire breaks and about climate change. And thank you for joining us today. And if you have any questions at all, whether they are philosophical questions about plants or practical questions about things you can do in order to protect yourself, I know that Marjolein is totally willing to answer those questions. You can comment in the space below and ask, or come visit us and her on her special page on GrowMe, and you can contact her there. We'll have all the links in the description. We really hope that you, your families, your homes are safe, and that we can all take action together in order to restore the planet and reverse climate change.